There are many stories that have a similar theme, but this version has a little twist. So let's see what it evokes in us as we continue to explore what it means to be human, or what it means to be real. It's one of those stories that begin with, in a time long ago, in a place far away, there was a man. He was considered to be a good man. He was a good worker, a good neighbor, a good husband. But it seemed that whatever endeavor he undertook did not bring financial success. So he was considered poor. And for this reason, his wife would often nag him and call him a ne'er-do-well. But one day, in a fit of pique, his wife went over to the rice cooker and scraped up the stale rice out of the bottom and put it in a bag and handed it to him with some stale bread and cheese, and gave it to him and said, "Now get out and don't come back until you've made some kind of success." So, at a great loss, the man took up his bag and went out and wandered down the road somewhat aimlessly, not knowing where he would end up, when he came to a three-ways. And in that three-ways there was a large banyan tree, and by this time he was hot and tired. So he sat down under the banyan tree, hanging his bag of food up in the branches to keep it away from animals, and promptly went into a deep sleep. But it so happened that this banyan tree was inhabited by spirits, and they were curious, because of course spirits only lived on the ambrosia from the trees, etc., etc. They'd never really tasted what we would call human food, so they were curious. And so they decided to taste what it was that was in the bag that was hanging up in the trees, and somehow they found this stale rice to their taste. It was very tasty, so they shared it amongst themselves and finished it all off. So of course, when the man under the tree woke up, he was very hungry, so he went to reach for his bag of food to find that it was all gone. He was quite surprised, but then as he looked around, he saw that there were 3 metal bowls just beside him under the tree, because the spirits had decided to thank him for the food that he'd provided for them. But he didn't know what to do with these bowls, but he picked them up and turned them around in his hand, and they seemed to give out a kind of resonance, but they were kind of resonating with his hungry stomach, when all of a sudden, out of the bowls came 3 handmaidens, and without a word they began to provide him with the food that he had not spoken about, but which he really desired, so he was able to eat his fill. But being the man that he was very, very grateful and gave thanks to whomever it was that had provided this for him. And then he, with great reverence, gathered up the bowls and hastened back to his wife to tell her the story of what had happened. And so, being the kind of beings that they were, they put their bowls under their house altar, and they gave thanks to the gods for this before partaking of it. But they also, because of their nature, went around to all of their neighbors to invite them for a feast. Now, of course, the neighbors all knew that this was a poor man, and they thought he'd gone mad, or this was some kind of a joke. But they were also curious to know what was going on. But some of them, in fact, many of them, had something to eat before they came to this so-called feast, thinking that it was going to be some kind of joke. But when they all arrived at the house, to their very great surprise, the handmaidens were evoked, and everyone was given a feast according to their tastes. So, of course, a lot of them went home completely bloated, but again very curious about what was going on. But again, the couple, the man and his wife, were very grateful and gave thanks for this abundance, and of course they began to grow rich. And this came to the ears of a rather rich and greedy man in the area, the vicinity, who started to get jealous of this man who was growing wealthy, etc. So he wanted to know what it was that enabled this riches to be brought about. And so he managed to get himself invited to the couple's house, and he cajoled them into telling him the story of how this came about. And so he was told the story, and he went back and he thought, well, I can do that even better. So he got his servants to cook up a great feast, which he bundled up and made his way to the 3 ways where the banyan tree was. So he did exactly what the man had told him. He hung food up in the trees, and then he lay down under the banyan tree where he thought to himself he would just pretend to be asleep so he could see what was going on. But after a while, of course, sleep got the better of him, and he went fast asleep. And when he woke up, sure enough, the food was gone, and in its place there were the bowls under the tree. He was delighted, could not wait to go back to invite all his neighbors to the feast that he was going to provide. And so the word was put out to all the neighbors. And of course, this time they were anticipating a feast. So some of them didn't eat all day, so they could do well to eat what was going to be provided. So all the guests arrived, and they were arrayed in the dining hall in the magnificent house that the rich man had, awaiting the feast. So the rich man went over to the bowls and did what was said that was required to evoke the handmaiden. But instead of handmaidens emerging from the bowls, it was a bevy of very burly eunuchs, and they proceeded with sharp razors in their hands to go to each and every one of the guests and shave them clean. Men and women were shaved until they had shiny pates on their heads. And then, of course, as the guests hastened to get out of that place, there was a big burly eunuch standing at the door with a mirror. And he insisted that each and every one of the guests have a good look in the mirror before they departed. So this is the twist to the story that has many versions. But what does it evoke in us? What is it that comes to our awareness as to the meaning, the interpretation of what this story is conveying to us? Remembering that we're now exploring what it is to be human, what it is to be real. What does this story evoke in us? About being human, about being real.
What jumps into my mind is, I read before, and it's about pure intent. So where you come from is what you create, I guess.
Yes. Mm-hmm.